So as I said, Rabbi Harris is away for the weekend. Don't worry, he'll be back by Pesach. But I'm going to give the sermon this morning for Shabbat Hagadol, which is really a privilege, such an important Shabbos. So when I lived in Connecticut in the early 2010s, I don't know if people say that. What's that? Okay, yay, sure. Because they won yesterday? I don't know. All right. My daughter Dee went to a local Jewish day school called Bicultural. Very creative name. It was a wonderful school and pluralistic, just like JDS and Milton here in the DC area. One morning I saw a local young Israel rabbi dropping off his kids for school, and we got to talking about Pesach plans. He was getting ready for Shabbat Hagadol. I asked him, why do they call it Shabbat Hagadol anyhow? His explanation was that this was the great Shabbat when rabbis would give a long drash, imagine that, devoted to reminding and explaining the laws of Pesach to their congregations, something that might have been fairly relevant where he was at Young Israel. And in fact, the Haftorah explanation, if you look at the commentary, it talks about the tithing that took place at this time. So there is a rabbinic tradition of the Jews trying to come back and get the laws and the customs correct, even though we didn't have the halakha back then. Even in the temple times, there was this idea of the tithing and the ritual aspects of life that needed to be corrected by the time Pesach came. So believe it or not, my sermon this morning is not devoted to the type of covering you need for the wooden counter versus the marble one. Really, the material doesn't matter. It has to do with whether there are holes or scratches that small particles of food can get in. With wood, that's more likely, so please cover it. In fact, I covered my countertops for years and recently decided I'm just going to wipe harder. In all seriousness, though, the Hilchot Pesach, or laws of Passover, are some of the most widely observed in the Jewish world. Not the nitty-gritty minutiae of the countertops or the koshering of dishes or using of separate sets of dishes, but the spirit and general prohibitions regarding the eating of bread on Pesach are kept far more widely in the Jewish community than kashrut. Sitting in the pre-K classroom this past Wednesday, I asked the kids what they would most like to put on their matzah, and they said a combination of chocolate, jam, pizza, and pepperoni. Pepperoni on matzah is the proof of Jews' devotion to Passover laws in a manner that exceeds community-wide observance of kashrut. Why? The simple answer is that it's less of a commitment. If we told the Jewish community they only had to keep kosher 1 week a year, my guess is that 70% or more would do it. Keeping kosher year-round is a discipline and commitment that you need lots of training and know-how to perform. Simply refraining from bread for a week, we're not even going to get into the bread product, corn syrup, illicit vodkas, rye, is far less demanding. So what is it about concentration and observance? Shabbat morning services are a microcosm of this Pesach versus kashrut observance paradigm. People say the Shabbat services are too long, and by the way, they are, but most people only come for 60 to 90 minutes. It's only the stalwarts like a Paul Frieden, or like a Jeff Spector, or maybe a Matt Slater, who's not here right now, who are here for the full 2 hours and 45 minutes. It seems self-evident that the primary reason most people don't come for a full Shabbat service is that they simply cannot or choose not to sit for that long. It's hard, and if I'm not leading, I like to take breaks as well, walk around, get coffee, etc. But no matter how long we are at shul, it begs the question, what are we here for? It's not self-evident to me that people who come for longer are getting a more fulfilling or richer religious experience. You can sit in the service for 2.5 hours and feel distracted or antsy, or you can come for 20 minutes at the end and focus deeply on your prayers and have a very fulfilling experience. The question that I have this morning is, what makes observance or prayer meaningful? Is it focus or is it intention? Let's think about the Seder for a minute. When you are planning your Pesach Seder, there is great intention and planning involved. Who is coming to the Seder? Who is leading the Seder? Who will chant the 4 questions? Anyone going to chant the 4 questions here? Ben, are you up? 4 questions? Yeah? No? Okay, no. I guess it's going to be Jonah. All right. How long should the Seder last? That's probably the most important question. When should the meal begin? Maybe that's the most important question. Where should we hide the afikomen? Will we include any special songs or readings for the Seder this year? What games are there to entertain the kids? This planning helps us to get ready for the Seder. We know how long it's going to be. We know what part we will take in it. We know what the goals are for the Seder, and therefore the Seder is usually a joyful and widely popular religious experience that we look forward to every year. In fact, I think it's been estimated that 70 to 80% of American Jews will go to a Seder, which is incredible. It's like twice the number that are affiliated with synagogues. Imagine if we approached prayer this way. What part of the service would I like to arrive for? What is my intention in being in the service? Should I focus on self-improvement, relaxation, gratitude, schmoozing? How will I approach prayers that have little meaning? Which prayers do I want to understand better? Be'ana rachetz, yiyu l'ratzon. What do I say to God during the Amidah? This planning is not one size fits all. It needs to be something that is meaningful to you. Here's a suggestion. Use signposts, just like the Seder. The Seder is easier to get through because there is a name for each part and we know what to expect. I know, there's a name for each part of the Saturday morning service too, but people don't really pay attention to that. When you arrive at the service, recite Matovu or Ilufinu, no matter which part of the service is happening. The translation of Ilufinu, for instance, even if my mouth were filled with song, as the waters fill the sea. When we approach the Amidah, you could use this supplemental poem from a website, or I should say a blog, called Velveteen Rabbi. Anyone familiar with Velveteen Rabbi? This actually comes from, I think, from Parshat Vayikra. V'im zevach shlamim korbano tamim yakrivenu lifnei Adonai. If your drawing near offering is an offering of wholeness, you shall draw near before God without blemish. I want you, this is the beginning of the poem, I want to be near you, holy, to bring all of me to your doorstep, heart fluttering in my chest. Is my self-doubt a blemish? Or the way I gnaw at my imperfections as though I could bite them off? You don't need what I have, but I ache to offer. I'd pull my heart out of my chest if you wanted it. I want to give you every good thing. Breathe into me. All that I am is for you. When we approach a prayer like Yihiyu l'ratzon at the end of the Amidah, you could say slowly to yourself, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God. Maybe say it softly to yourself rather than just scanning it with your eyes. When the Shema is about to be recited during the Torah service, you could use this as a prelude there. The prayer Be'ana rachetz we mentioned earlier before the Shema is recited in the Torah service is a Kabbalistic prayer asking God to fulfill the wishes of our hearts. It comes from the 16th century in Tzfat. The words Be'ana rachetz mean, in God do we put our trust, and to God's holy and precious name do I declare praise. It's an unusually personal prayer. May it be your will that you open my heart to the Torah and fulfill the wishes of my heart and the hearts of all of Israel. Having a plan can be really helpful. And just as on Pesach, using supplemental material can enliven the set liturgy that we are so accustomed to. Perhaps this following text could be for the end, read right before the end of the service. And this is from Naomi Levy's website, although I don't think she wrote it. God, make me brave for life. Oh, braver than this. Let me straighten after pain, as a tree straightens after the rain, shining and lovely again. God, make me brave for life, much braver than this. As the blown grass lifts, let me rise from sorrow with quiet eyes, knowing thy way is wise. God, make me brave, Life brings on such blinding things. Help me to keep my sight. Help me to see aright, that out of doubt comes light. Shabbat HaGadol is the reminder that a great and work-heavy holiday is approaching. But great things cannot be accomplished all at once. They are done over days, weeks, and years of focus and intention. So in this Shabbat HaGadol, perhaps the Gadol can be change. Change how you approach prayer, how you approach your religious ritual experiences. Through planning, quiet, and intention, we can transform our experience and ourselves. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.